They tell you love is the answer. That if you love deeply, give endlessly, stay soft, the world will protect you, respect you, reciprocate. But Machiavelli didn't see love as a gift. He saw it as a liability. A door left open, a weakness waiting to be exploited. A man who depends on love will be destroyed by it. A man who commands fear survives, not because love is bad, but because it's blind and the world is not. Where love starts, strategy ends. You love your family, your friends, your partner. You tell them everything. You forgive them early. You justify what they do even when it hurts you. And why? Because love removes the filter. You stop calculating, you stop protecting your position. You assume if I would never hurt them, they wouldn't hurt me. But Machiavelli would laugh at that. He knew even those closest to you will betray you if it suits their interest, especially when they know you won't retaliate. The danger isn't in enemies, it's in familiarity. Your enemies fear your silence. But the people you love, they grow comfortable with your softness, with your access, with your obedience. Over time, they expect your loyalty unearned. Demand your forgiveness instantly, react with anger when you finally pull back. Because love, when unguarded, turns you into a tool. Not always intentionally, but inevitably. Machiavelli didn't believe in removing love. He believed in containing it. You love with a ceiling, with a cost, with a plan. Because without a limit, love becomes emotional exposure. And emotional exposure is the most exploitable position a powerful man can be in. Let's get one thing clear. To be cold-blooded isn't to be cruel, it's to be aware. Aware of how people shift when they're too close. Aware of what you give up when you become too emotionally transparent. Aware of what love turns into when it goes unquestioned. Entitlement. Machiavelli understood something most don't. The ones who love you unconditionally will still hurt you accidentally, and the ones who only stay close because of what you provide will hurt you deliberately. So the solution isn't to stop loving, it's to stop leading with love. The moment you lead with feeling, you lose leverage. You ever wonder why your advice isn't taken seriously by your family? Why your friends stop listening after they get what they want? Why your partner doesn't fear losing you? Because they know your love overrides your logic. They know you'll apologize first. You'll come back. You'll explain. You'll defend your feelings. You'll never enforce consequence. And that makes you predictable, soft, safe. And Machiavelli warned us, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But with those closest to you, being feared feels wrong. So you stop playing the game and they start winning it. The cost of staying warm. You will lower your standards. Accept behavior. You destroy strangers over. Forgive without reform. Stay silent just to keep the peace. But the peace you're keeping is just everyone else's comfort with your weakness. And when someone is comfortable with your weakness, they will test it, then poke it, then exploit it. You don't have to stop loving. You just have to love with boundaries so sharp. They cut. Let them see your warmth, but never without a wall behind it. Because the moment your love becomes unconditional, so does your pain. Strangers don't break you. It's always the ones you let closest. And Machiavelli understood why. He wasn't paranoid. He was precise. He knew that the people who knew your buttons, your boundaries, your soft spots were the most likely to push them. Not because they hate you, but because they've stopped fearing you. And when fear leaves a relationship, so does respect. Test 1, the entitlement test. They stop thanking you. Stop asking for permission. Stop considering how much you're giving. Why? Because in their mind, you're already theirs. They believe you'll always help. You'll always show up. You'll always say yes. And the moment you don't, you're selfish. You've changed. You're cold. But Machiavelli would say, let them speak. That's just the sound of someone mourning the loss of their advantage. Test 2, the guilt reflex. You set a boundary. They get emotional. You say no. They bring up the past. You protect your time. They call you distant. It's not a conversation anymore. It's a maneuver, because they've learned if they can make you feel guilty, they can make you reverse any decision. And if you flinch, they file it. They'll use it again. That's not love. That's emotional negotiation. And if you can't hold your line when guilt enters the room, you never had one. Test 3, the loyalty loop. You've been loyal, supportive, consistent. But when you're the only one doing that, it becomes expected. They stop checking in, stop reciprocating, start showing up only when it suits them. And when you finally pull back, they panic. Not because they love you, but because they just lost their emotional insurance policy. Machiavelli would tell you, if your loyalty is predictable, it will be exploited before it is appreciated. Test 4. Just this once. This one's dangerous. It starts small. Can you cover this? Can you cancel that for me? Can you overlook this mistake? Just this once. But the moment you give in, it's never just once. You become the person who can be bent because you've proven you won't break. They now know you'll bend your values as long as I stay close enough. That's not love. That's strategic pressure. Test 5. The you're too harsh defense. You speak clearly. You're too cold. You pull back. You're stone-hearted. You stop being endlessly patient. Now you're heartless. This is how they flip your strength into sin. But the truth, they don't miss your warmth. They miss access to the version of you who allowed them to act without consequence. And now that version's gone, they call it cruelty. But it's just clarity. Why Machiavelli would expect all this, he would say, the closer someone stands to you, the more they expect you to absorb their chaos. And if you don't, they'll call you cold. They'll say you're different. They'll frame your evolution as betrayal. Let them. Because the man who fears offending everyone he loves ends up surrounded by people who love how easily they can offend him. The solution: stop proving you're good. You don't need to justify your coldness, defend your detachment, apologize for outgrowing the emotional systems they depended on. You just enforce silently, consistently, without flinching. Let the accusations come. Let the discomfort rise, because once they know the old version of you is gone, they either evolve or you let them go, and either outcome strengthens your position. Being cold-blooded isn't about turning off your heart. It's about defending your power with precision, especially from those who assume you'll never use it against them. Because if you don't protect your emotional center, you become the emotional landfill for everyone else's chaos. Machiavelli didn't build walls to keep people out. He built filters to test who was worthy of getting in. And once inside, no one stayed without constant requalification. Let's talk about how you create that same boundary power. Rule Narma 1. Never explain your emotional distance. You don't owe an explanation for needing space, going silent, saying no, pulling back from toxic patterns. The more you explain, the more you give them emotional leverage. Machiavelli would say to explain is to invite negotiation. To act without permission is to signal strength. So when someone asks, why are you acting different? What happened to us? Why didn't you reach out? You don't argue. You don't unload your reasons. You simply say, I've recalibrated. And that silence, that refusal to emotionally bleed, it commands respect or it reveals who was never capable of giving it. Rule number 2. Set consequences, not conditions. Most people set conditions. Don't talk to me like that again. If you do this, I'll get upset. Please don't disrespect me. But Machiavelli would never beg for better behavior. He designed structures that make disrespect costly. You don't say, don't do that. You show when you do that, I disappear. And you don't return when they panic. You return when you decide, if ever. Boundaries don't beg, they act. That's how they earn power. Rule number 3, never negotiate through emotion. Once someone knows, you cry when pressured, you panic when ignored, you rush to fix when they go silent. They stop respecting your mind and start playing your emotions. Machiavelli would never allow this because emotional clarity is a shield, and once pierced, the opponent no longer aims at your mind. They aim at your wounds. You protect yourself by being unreadable under pressure. No long texts. No, I just feel like moments. No impulsive re-entry after being hurt. Your silence becomes your leverage. Your stillness becomes your stance. And if they want your softness, they'll have to earn it again. Rule number 4, define what you tolerate and never wobble. Most people have boundaries that shift depending on who's asking, how long they've known them, how emotionally tired they are. That's weakness. That's emotional currency inflation, and it kills your worth. You need black and white rules like I don't respond to yelling once I set space. It stays until I reopen it. I don't reward apologies without changed behavior, and then you follow through without exception. People don't test what's enforced. They test what's flexible. Machiavelli didn't punish often, but when he did, it was surgical, cold, final. You must do the same or they'll keep gambling with your forgiveness. Rule number 5. Don't fear being seen as harsh. This is where most people fold. They know they're being used. They know their peace is being disturbed. But the moment they enforce, they feel guilty. Because society tells you, if you're not endlessly patient, you're cruel. If you don't explain yourself, you're arrogant. If you don't let them back in, you're unforgiving. But Machiavelli didn't fear being called. He feared being called easy. And you should too. Let them call you what they want. Let them rewrite your character to fit their pain. Because when you fear reputation more than reality, you surrender power for perception. And perception changes nothing. You're not being cold. You're being uncompromising. Love without boundaries becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice without recognition becomes slavery. Machiavelli would never die on someone else's emotional battlefield. He'd observe, withdraw, return when respected. That's not being cold-blooded. That's being in control. This is where most people hesitate. They say, but I don't want to become numb. I don't want to lose myself. I'm afraid if I go cold, I won't come back. That fear is real, but that's because people confuse cold-blooded strategy with emotional disconnection. Machiavelli didn't lose his humanity. He mastered when and how to use it. Because in his world and yours, feeling everything means being controlled by everything. Cold-blooded thinking isn't cruelty, it's control. You don't stop feeling. You stop reacting emotionally when your position demands calculation. You still love, care, connect, reflect, but only within the walls you've built. Walls that keep you from becoming another pawn in someone else's emotional game. Being cold-blooded doesn't mean you lack warmth. It means you choose when to turn the heat on and for who. That's not emotional absence. That's emotional intelligence. Control starts with internal emotional framing. You have to shift how you process hurt. When someone disrespects you, you don't react. You calculate. When someone lies to you, you don't spiral. You observe. When someone withdraws, you don't chase. You interpret. This internal dialogue changes everything. You go from why did they do this to me to what did this just teach me about them? Machiavelli would take betrayal and ask, what can I extract from this moment that makes me stronger? Because the cold-blooded thinker sees pain as positioning, not personal loss. You must master the art of slow reactions. Do you know what scares people the most? Not anger, not shouting, not revenge. It's the person who sees betrayal and says nothing. They wait, they distance, they remove access, not with fury, but with indifference. Because when you react too fast, you're not dangerous. You're predictable. Machiavelli didn't act on impulse, he acted on advantage. He taught us power is not having the strongest emotion, it's having the strongest timing. Build a strategic pain mindset. Every time you feel disrespected, disappointed, replaced, you have two options. Take it personally. Turn it into intelligence. The cold-blooded mind doesn't cry over what it lost. It catalogs who's capable of losing you and adjusts access accordingly. It turns pain into clarity, distance into power, loss into evolution. Because when you're emotionally reactive, you give the other person power over your interpretation of reality. But when you absorb quietly, you become the person no one wants to cross twice. You don't have to lose your heart. You have to protect it with a system. Most people love like it's war, but go in unarmed. They say, I'll give them everything. I'll love them through their worst. They'll come back when they realize. But Machiavelli knew hope is not a strategy, and kindness without discipline is suicide in disguise. So you don't close your heart, you build a gate. And behind that gate is a rule. Only those who prove their consistency gain my vulnerability, because your warmth must be earned, not assumed, and your care must be conditional, not because you're cruel, but because you're valuable. The final shift, You must accept being misunderstood. This is what stops most from stepping into true power. They want to be strategic, but they also want to be liked. They want to be respected, but they also want to stay nice. And Machiavelli would say, if you need others to agree with your evolution, you've already surrendered the freedom to evolve. You will be called cold. You will be seen as detached. You will lose people who loved the version of you who always bled on command. Let them leave because their discomfort isn't your problem. It's their loss of access to the old you. And the old you was easy to hurt. Cold-blooded doesn't mean heartless. Detached doesn't mean disconnected. Strong doesn't mean selfish. But that's what they'll say the moment you stop over-giving, over-explaining, over-loving. You're suddenly too much, too sharp, too different. And that's where most people fail. They either stay soft and get used, or go hard and lose themselves. Machiavelli walked a middle path, the path of strategic empathy. Let's talk about how you stay powerful without becoming the monster they accuse you of being. Step 1. Define your intention, not their perception. Ask yourself, am I setting boundaries to hurt them or to protect myself? Am I creating distance because I'm cold or because I'm being drained? Am I silent because I'm passive-aggressive or because I've already spoken enough? If your answer is self-protection, not retaliation, you're on the right path. Machiavelli didn't care about looking noble. He cared about maintaining position, and people who maintain position without cruelty are rare. That's your role now. Step 2. Show mercy without losing your stance. There's nothing wrong with giving someone another chance, being kind without being naive, helping someone you've pulled away from. If they've shown growth, the danger lies not in the mercy, but in forgetting why you pulled away in the first place. So when you give, don't remove the standard. Don't erase the consequence. Don't return without terms. You can offer softness but not surrender. And that's the balance. Step 3. Control your presence, not just your distance. People think pulling away equals power, but Machiavelli knew your presence when controlled is far more influential. You show up briefly, speak with clarity, exit while they still feel your absence. You become the reminder, not the enemy, not the emotional wreck, not the drama, the calm, the person who's always a few steps ahead, the one who left with no chaos, but changed the temperature of the room just by exiting. That's authority without aggression. Step 4. Maintain standards, not control. You can't force people to respect you. You can only make disrespect expensive. That means you don't demand apologies. You don't force communication. You don't make people understand. You withdraw access. You remove emotional privileges. You let the silence do the math for them. And if they rise to meet your standard, you re-engage. If not, they never belong beside your evolution in the first place. Step 5. Let your kindness become selective, not exhausted. You don't stop being kind. You stop being careless with your kindness. You give it slowly after observation with internal checkpoints with clear exit strategies. If things go off track, and if people call it transactional, let them. Because unconditional giving sounds noble until it's used as a weapon against your peace. You now give only what aligns with your vision, energy, and emotional health. That's not selfish. That's self-command. Step 6. Don't defend your boundaries, enforce them. If they call you cold, say you're distant, accuse you of switching up, say nothing. You don't need to debate your transformation. You just keep walking. Because power isn't proved through conversation, it's revealed through consistency, and if they miss the old you, let them remember. But they don't get access to the elevated you until they prove they've outgrown the old version of themselves, too. Balance isn't a line, it's a filter. You're not meant to become stone. You're meant to become a mirror, reflecting others clearly, giving warmth only when earned, staying calm no matter who throws the first punch. That's Machiavellian empathy. Strategic, conditional, and unwavering in its boundaries. You've learned the warnings, you've seen the patterns. You've outgrown the version of yourself that was too soft to be safe. Now the final step isn't a theory, it's a lifestyle. Machiavelli didn't theorize power, he became it. And if you want to stay cold-blooded in a world that constantly begs you to shrink back into emotional servitude, you need rules, rituals, repetition. This is how you make your boundaries permanent without ever needing to announce them again. Habit 1. Move without emotional announcement. You don't tell people, I'm cutting you off, I'm creating space, I'm focusing on myself. You just move. You slow replies, you stop over-explaining, you don't re-engage once you've withdrawn. Because real boundaries don't need speeches. They're written in your consistency, not your captions. Machiavelli didn't need people to agree with his silence. He just made sure they felt it. Habit 2. Stay polite. Never overfamiliar. Your warmth should not be automatic. It should be earned and maintained. Greet with composure. Compliment with purpose. Exit while still respected. This balance keeps your image disciplined and clean. Why? Because the emotionally familiar man is easy to use, but the one who stays precise is impossible to manipulate. Your cold-blooded nature doesn't come from being harsh. It comes from being structured. Habit 3. Reflect before reacting. Always someone disappoints you. You don't snap, you observe. Someone crosses your line, you don't escalate, you catalog it. Cold-blooded isn't about having no emotion. It's about never letting emotion move before thought. This pause, this internal filter is your new edge. And when others spiral, panic, shout, or sulk, your stillness will intimidate them more than any outburst could. Habit 4. Never reopen what you closed without requalification. You left for a reason. Don't come back without a new one. If you ended a friendship, relationship, partnership, let them learn the version of you that gave access. Too many return because they apologized. It's been a while. Maybe it'll be different. No, time doesn't heal betrayal. Standards do. And if they haven't grown, you haven't missed anything. Habit 5. Treat your peace as a private strategy, not a public statement. Don't turn your emotional maturity into marketing. You're not cold-blooded so people admire you. You're cold-blooded so people respect what they can't access at will. You live quietly. You protect deeply. You let the results of your self-control speak louder than any video or quote ever could. That's the Machiavellian finish line. Total power. No explanation.